Thank you very much. Please be seated. Your Excellencies, Mr. President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we've gathered this morning to launch what will for a long time to come be the talk of town. The key questions will be asked today and answers will be provided this morning as to the intergenerational or transgenerational global peace campaign. We'll be asking questions that will be related to the economy, how secure young people want to be in the future, what kind of future we seek to build together as a people. But we'll start off with an opening prayer. Machel will do us the honors. Ladies and gentlemen, please, a round of applause for Machel.
I'll humbly ask you all to rise to your feet, please. Bow down your heads and close your eyes. Just find that inner chamber of peace, for that is the reason we're here. Thank you, Father. Thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for promising us that when we come together, you are in our midst to bless us. We know that you are here not just to entertain us, but to transform us. Not just to challenge us, but to change us and to make us more like yourself. We pray that we will have ears to hear, a heart to believe, and a will to execute. Help us, Lord, not just to listen, but to practice what we learn. For this is the ultimate goal of your word, that we practice what we learn. We look forward to hearing your voice. Look forward to hearing you speak through each speaker. May your kingdom come and your original intent be done in this place, just like it is in heaven. In the name of the Prince of Peace, Jesus the Christ, the Son of the living God, we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much. One more time, a round of applause for Machel. Mr. President, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to quickly acknowledge all government functionaries, traditional rulers, members of the diplomatic corps, students from selected schools, civil society organizations, NGOs, and all of you who have made time to join us here this morning for this very important conversation. My name is Johnny Hughes. I work at TV3. I'm the voice of change and the face you would want to see on your television every morning. Tune in. I invite you. Let's now welcome the Dr. Vasu Gordon. He's a Global Peace founder, to give us a speech.
President, Madam Graca Machel, my boss, eminent traditional leaders, distinguished young compatriots of Africa, distinguished guests. Mr. President, I'm tempted to start with a little anecdote because you have now caught me off guard and I'm a victim of my own joke that I make all the time. I once was called to address a group of diplomats in Pretoria, and they were all suited up with their ties, and I arrived, of course, without a tie. So I had to quickly think of an anecdote. So I said to the diplomats, I said, Excellencies, I once went to Brighton, outside of London, and I stepped outside the hotel. It was the middle of winter, and I realized why the British wear ties. They have to protect their neck. I said on a separate occasion, I arrived in Accra. I stepped off the plane, and I realized why Ghanaians wear flowing gowns, because of the heat in Ghana. And I said, now, Excellencies, I can't understand why in the heat of Pretoria you have your ties on, and the only explanation I can find is that you would like to celebrate your colonial past. Now I'm a victim of my own joke, Mr. President. You are here dressed for the weather of Ghana, and here I am in my tie suffocating. And all I can say now, I'm embarrassed that I am celebrating my colonial past. Your Excellency, 27 years ago, we established the African Center for the Constructive Resolution of Disputes, ACCORD, out of the realization that an urgent priority following the end of the Cold War and the emergence of internal conflicts in Africa was the need for a center of excellence to mitigate conflict. 27 years later, we can confidently say that Accord is the center of excellence. Since 1992, we continue to work, Mr. President, Excellencies, and guests, closely with the United Nations, the African Union, regional organizations, governments, and civil society partners. We have influenced policy, trained almost 20,000 individuals on the continent, and assisted in the mediation of almost all of Africa's protracted conflicts. Last year, we were ranked by Pennsylvania University for the 9th consecutive year among the top 100 think tanks globally out of almost 6,000 think tanks. Your Excellency, distinguished guests, a quarter of a century into this 21st century, while we continue to deploy through Accord a dedicated cadre of skilled personnel to continue mitigating conflicts in Africa, we also recognize that peace is not merely the absence of war. Peace is the absence of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. We also recognize, Excellency, that our world is in one of the most prosperous periods in history, yet despite this, millions of people have been left behind, and more dangerously, the confluence of a number of factors like climate change, new forms of urban conflict, urbanization into unplanned cities, and untransformed economies is driving fear and anxiety and consequently dividing our world at a time when the common challenges we face require us to cooperate and collaborate. It is with this urgency in mind, Your Excellency and distinguished guests, that we decided to use our experience, our expertise, our political and social capital and networks to launch from Africa and from the Global South an institution to build cooperation and collaboration on the most urgent priorities of this century: ending poverty, creating livelihoods for all, and building an equitable world. It is for this reason, Excellency, we decided to establish Global Peace, an institution with a name that without ambiguity explains its raison d'etre. Your Excellency, in creating this African-led institution, we knew that we had to do two things. Firstly, we had to choose a symbol that was decidedly African, one that we could share with the rest of the world, and for this we turned to a country that is synonymous with the struggles and successes of Africa, the Republic of Ghana. And we searched in the proud history of your country, Excellency, and we adopted the Adinkra symbol of Mpatapo. Secondly, Your Excellency, to address these urgent priorities, we decided to embark on an ambitious initiative to host 100 intergenerational dialogues in 100 cities across the world, and we're very happy and proud that you announced this in December at the Mandela 100 concert. Excellency, we intend with Global Peace to host a Global Peace Forum in 2020, and we have already invited the UN Secretary General to come to Durban in November this year to receive a Global Peace Charter at a meeting that will bring 5,000 mayors and city officials to the city of Durban. We are asking the UN Secretary General to take this charter, the Global Peace Charter, coming from the voices of people at local level, to the first Global Peace Forum in 2020 to be held at the United Nations General Assembly Hall alongside the UN General Assembly of 2020 on the 75th anniversary of the founding of the United Nations. Mr. President, I want to pause at this point because an event like this requires a lot of work. And I have to say, for us as an institution, doing this all the way across in Ghana was not easy. And we had to rely on the assistance of local interlocutors. And at this point, I want to acknowledge them. From the presidency seated here, Dr. Eugene Ouso, who was very helpful in making sure that we were always linked with the presidency, and we were able to link this also to the SDGs. Mr. Mike Ofori-Atta, I'm not sure if he's here, but he was also very helpful, and Mr. Fawaz Aliu. Also, President, the spirit of volunteerism is still alive in your country. And a lot of the young people that you see here today and you see outside all volunteer their services to global peace. We didn't raise the money from outside, we raised the money in whatever we needed here, but most of it, and we were here till 3 a.m. this morning where they were putting all this up, and I have to say they stayed with it. And there were 3 people especially that I want to thank also, starting with the most senior, Chief Nathaniel Isarko, who gave of his time and resources. Seated next to him also is Peter from the African Association of Students Union, who brought all of the students in. And then the very hardworking gentleman who I kept calling from South Africa and saying, get some sleep, please, Mr. Mawali Asami. At this stage, Mr. President, I'm very proud today to present to you, Your Excellency, and to the Chair of Global Peace, Mrs. Graca Machel, our partners. Because if we're talking about collaboration and cooperation, we need partners across the world, and today I want to acknowledge those partners. Starting, of course, Mr. President, with Global Citizen. They have become a partner to Global Peace. Global Citizen, as you know, Mr. President, is a global movement of engaged citizens who are using their collective voices to end extreme poverty. And they are represented here today by Dr. Akufo-Addo, who is the head of Global Policy and Advocacy for Africa of Global Citizen. And I'd like to call her to the stage. And she will share in 1 minute their commitment to global peace.
Dr. Vasu, Your Excellency, Mr. President, Mam Graca Machel, honored guest, what a privilege it is for me to be here on behalf of Global Citizen for such an important occasion, such an important conversation and moment in a time and a world where we're facing some of the greatest global challenges of our time. Nationalism, populism, extreme poverty, natural disasters. It's never been more imperative for us to come together in times like this to share ideas, share our thoughts. In that way, we kind of show that, you know, this thing still matters, our collective voices still matters, and can be used to do more than just divide and destruct, but rather create and change for the better of not just some, but for all of us. So thank you so much for having me here, and I hope you have a wonderful day further. Thank you.
Mr. President, to host the 100 dialogues across the world, it's impossible for us to be in every city. And so we turned to a partner who has branches in 124 countries across the world, the Junior Chamber International, and I'm very happy to say the Secretary General, who hails from Cameroon, by the way, is here, and he will join us, Mr. Are. He has flown all the way from Missouri.
Your Excellency, the President, the Chair of Global Peace, ladies and gentlemen, I represent an organization of young people found in 124 countries. It's 200,000 young people between the ages of 18 to 40. And since 2016, we have committed to making peace possible through a campaign that we call Peace is Possible. And for 2 years, we've mobilized over 4 million young people around the world to make a commitment that peace is possible. It is therefore with great honor that I'm happy to be here today with a group of JCI members. So if you are from JCI in the room, please let me give you a shout out. Yeah. Who have committed to have a peace movement in 1,000 cities around the world this year. We're doing events in 100 countries around the world as well, and making sure that we mobilize 1 million young people this year to commit to making peace possible. And I hope that the young people of Ghana will join us on the Global Peace Platform to change the trajectory of the world to one that is more peaceful and more prosperous. Thank you very much.
Chair, our next partner is Millennium Promise. You will remember of Mr. Jeffrey Sachs. The mission of Millennium Promise is to advance sustainable development in communities across rural Africa using innovative solutions and scalable systems. And I'd like to call upon now the representative of Millennium Promise, Chief.
Thank you, Dr. Vasu, Your Excellency, and Mrs. Graca Machel, honored guests. We are very humbled to be here today to discuss how we can promote peace in the globe. In actual fact, my boss, Professor Jeffrey Sachs, would have loved to be here himself to address this gathering because he's a big fan of Ghana and he sees Ghana as his second home. But unfortunately, he couldn't make time to be here, but he asked that I share with you that he's very committed to the cause. And so Millennium Promise actually operates in about 20 different countries, including Ghana. We've been in Ghana for the past 13 years, working in the rural part of the country, trying to see how best we can help them to improve their lots. And as has been said already, there can be no development without peace. And therefore, we see peace as the bedrock upon which we can progress. And if we want to achieve the SDGs, we can't leave out the young people. And that's the reason why he's been able to form what we call the Sustainable Development Solution Network. We have the SDSN Youth, and we have SDSN Academy that has over 140 universities across the globe, all hooked up to advancing the cause of discussing intellectually what we must do to get this one right once and for all. And for that, I say the Global Peace Dialogue is one such important step towards that direction. And therefore, we value and cherish this opportunity and look forward to participating in all the dialogue across the globe. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and God bless you all.
Excellency, we know that you are the co-chair of the UN Advocates for the SDGs, and it would be amiss of us if we didn't have the SDGs as a partner. And so earlier this year, we signed an MOU with the SDG Action Campaign, and I have just returned from Bonn 2 days ago, where the SDG Action Festival was taking place. And unfortunately, Marina Ponti, who is the executive director, understandably with a 3-day huge event, she could not turn around and fly to Accra. She sends her apologies, but she has sent a message, and we will just relay her message very quickly.
Good afternoon from Bonn, from the Global Festival of Action. I'm Marina Ponti, the director of the UN SDG Action Campaign, and I want to send a message to you, Mr. President, Graca Machel, friends from Accra, and all the other partners who will be, now it's Saturday, in 2 days in Accra for launching this amazing initiative. Global Peace, 100 Cities, 100 Dialogue. So we are in Bonn, we had this festival, and our friends from Accra were here. We signed a partnership because we really believe in this initiative. And there were many cities here who shown a great interest, great support to this initiative. So we at the UN SDG Action Campaign stand behind. We will work very closely. We will contribute our My World survey, so to add to this dialogue some baseline information on young people priorities, on what they care about and how they perceive change, progress, or lack of progress. So, but we feel honored to be a partner because we truly believe in the intergeneration concept. And as everybody talks about the importance of young people and youth and how to engage them, this is fantastic. But I think this initiative brings back the young people, the voice, with the decision maker, because young people today they are not in most places decision makers. So this initiative brings the voices of young people back to decision makers, and not any decision maker. This initiative is targeting cities, municipalities, because this is where conflict will be going forward. So I think that this other element of the initiative, bringing young people and mayor in 100 cities, hopefully even more, talking about priority, talking about what is going wrong, to prevent it, to fix it together. I wish you good luck for the launch, and we are with you. Thank you.
Excellency, we cannot do this in the world without the cooperation of cities. So we want to make sure that this is at the level of cities, so it's voices from below. And as you know, that cities will be the future in the world. And we then teamed up and signed with the United Cities and local government that has a membership of 250,000 city officials around the world. And the Secretary General has sent a very short message. So I ask our colleagues to.
Peace is a critical issue for the sustainability of our societies. It's a very basic prerequisite. And very often the role that local governments, that the local level plays in peacekeeping and promotion of peace is overlooked. This is why I am so pleased that Global Peace has decided to hold intergenerational dialogues in 100 cities around the world. United Cities and local governments, the oldest organization of local authorities, is very pleased to join the initiative as well. We will support you in promoting peace at local level, in ensuring that all generations talk about this and putting it high on the agenda of local elected officials and local administrations. We are truly grateful to you, our friends at Global Peace. I'm very sorry I'm not able to join you in Accra today, but hopefully we will run this road, we will walk this road together. Thank you.
And Chair, in the last 3 minutes, we cannot have partners globally without partners from Accra. And so we have 3 partners from Accra whom we've worked with for a long time. And we have the All Africa Students Union, represented by Peter Koji, and in 45 seconds, he will affirm their commitment to global peace.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, Madam Graca, Machel, today we're also very happy to be a part of the history that we're going to see here today. If you ever lived around December 1948, that was when the Human Rights Charter was adopted by the UN. Today, what was the reason why the Charter was developed was to answer a world that has been plagued by war. Today we see that the architecture of peace has changed. It's changed from what is interstate to what is intrastate. And so the way the UN was structured to provide answers has changed drastically. So when the concept of global peace was discussed with us as students and as young people, we thought that it provided that sort of answer in the day and age that we live in today. And so as young people, we pledge our commitment, we pledge our support. Now we may not have lived in the time as to see how the Human Rights Charter was adopted, but we have an opportunity to see how in future a global peace charter would look like. And so for all of us, this is a history that is in the making, and let us together come together and contribute our quota in the dialogue that comes not just in Ghana, but in the other African countries. So as young people, we pledge our commitment, and we're happy to be part of this. Thank you.
President, when we started looking at partners, I was very surprised at how many Ghanaians are occupying positions in global institutions. And our next partner is the Commonwealth Youth Council, represented by Ms. Abena Dugan from Ghana also. And she is the vice chairperson of the Commonwealth Youth Council.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, Your Excellency, Madame Graca Machel, all protocol duly observed, ladies and gentlemen. I must say that this is the space that young people have been looking forward to occupy. For us at the Commonwealth Youth Council, Global Peace Initiative is in the right direction in promoting global and sustainable goals 16, that is promoting peaceful and inclusive society. We believe that this dialogue is creating much more opportunities for young people to come on board to share in their belief. For us at the Commonwealth Youth Council, this falls in line with our goals, that is the social and political agenda. This agenda makes sure that young people should be at the forefront of building sustainable and peaceful societies. So we believe in you, we are going to partner you, we are coming on board to make sure that the 100 cities that we are going to engage in, at least 53 of them are Commonwealth countries. And I must put on record that Ghana is a Commonwealth country, and every young person here represented here is part of the Commonwealth Youth Council. So we are on board, we are with you on this, and we know that the peace that we envisage in the future, young people are going to be the torchbearers, and in the future we know that this is the future that we envisage in the area of peace. Thank you.
Mr. President, over the last 20 years, we have worked with the Ghanaian institution as a court, the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. They are our partner, and I'm very proud to call my brother, Kwesi Aning, whom we have known for almost 20 years, who is now the Director of Academic Training at the Kofi Annan Center.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, Madame Graca Machel. For us at the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Training Center, this is a very great opportunity to contribute to ensuring global peace. Our slogan at the center is where peace begins. And we do our work through research, policy engagement, education, and training. For us, the Global Peace Initiative has come at the right time. At a time when the global population of the youth is growing dramatically, of demographics that are shifting in such a manner that we can almost not understand the threats and the challenges that they pose. The Global Peace Initiative provides an opportunity to see it as a plus. And for us at the Kofi Annan Center, on behalf of the Executive Committee, we pledge our support 100%. We will place our facilities at your disposal. We'll place our research at your disposal, and we'll certainly contribute in any way that you call upon us. This is a great opportunity, and we look forward to supporting you. Thank you.
And our last partner is based here in Ghana, Dr. Eze, but is with ONEP, the West African Network for Peace Building, another institution we've worked with for 20 years now.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic, our own very revered icon, Graca Machel, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me congratulate my brother, Vasu, for this very bold effort. But let it also go on record that this is not about Africa's solution to African problems. This is about Africa Initiative for Global Solutions. And I think that it is important that the trajectory that the Global Peace Initiative is taking is coming to bridge the gap between our generation and the generation that is coming after us. And on that note, on behalf of our board, our national networks across West Africa, and our over 550 members will pledge our support to this initiative and to the intergenerational dialogue. I thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Mr. President, on this historic day when we launch an African-led global institution, we are very proud that two eminent African personalities, yourself, Mr. President, and the chair of our board, Mrs. Graca Machel, will officially launch the 100 dialogues in the next 30 minutes. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gordon. Mr. President, the first time you were made the co-chair of the SDGs globally, I always thought that I was very ambitious and a key campaigner of the SDGs until I met her. Fine woman with an even finer brain, broadcaster extraordinaire, inspiration to many young people in Ghana and across Africa. She's very vocal, committed, dedicated, and she has the passion to push a lot of action. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Anita Resking.
So Johnny has said it. Passion is one thing, action is another. But please allow me to use the next 15 seconds to say a big welcome to the young people in this room who are our future. If you are 35 years old and younger, let me hear your voice right now. Mr. President, I'm so happy you're laughing because we know you just celebrated your 75th birthday. Ladies and gentlemen, laughter is one thing, happiness is another, but action that is powered by this deep, insatiable desire to make the necessary change, not just for ourselves, but the kinds of change our great-grandfathers have hoped we will make, is completely a different story, and that's why we're here. And we're so blessed and I would say overwhelmed that two great impact makers across the continent of Africa and around the world have made time in their very busy schedule to show the youth of Africa how important they are. So another round of applause. The youth of Africa, let me hear you one more time. So please, we also want to hear from these eminent, powerful social impact makers. Please allow me to welcome our first in the two, and she is in the person of the Chair of Global Peace and the African Center, also known as Accord. And ladies and gentlemen, she is a powerful woman, more powerful than any of us can even dream of being. I want you to give the wildest, loudest Ghanaian welcome to our first speaker, Her Excellency, Graca Machel.
Thank you. Your Excellency, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, I'm sorry, President of the Republic of Ghana, I'm sorry, Mr. President. Traditional leaders present here, young people present here today, our partners in global peace, many of whom have traveled long distance to be here today, ministers, government officials, members of diplomatic community, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by addressing the young people. It is your presence and your future that we are talking about here today. And we are establishing the global peace and initiated these intergenerational dialogues to give you a platform to amplify your voice in shaping your present and future. Mr. President, we chose to launch these intergenerational dialogues from here, Ghana, to remind our young people, African young people, that freedom, political freedom they enjoy today, it started here. Ghana is the first country to become independent. but it's also the first to open its home to all liberation movements at the time. I am from Mozambique, and some of our colleagues as freedom fighters, they lived here together with ANC, PHEC, ZAPU, all the liberation movements, they were based here, and it's from here they strategized to free our continent from colonialism. So we thought it was appropriate for us to honor history and to say to Africans and to the world that this global peace movement is being launched from here because it is a sort of a second liberation of the world for a peaceful, prosperous, inclusive world. And we want history to remember, yes, it started again in Ghana, in Accra. Young people, the world we grew up in, the world our parents grew up in were different, but recognizable because changes happen slowly. But the world you are growing up in will be unrecognizable from our world, simply because technological change is moving at an alarmingly fast rate. Every 6 months, we see new changes. The stresses we had to deal with and the time pressures we had to deal with were not as stressful as what you have to deal with today. You live in an instant world where everybody wants everything instantly, and you have to respond by email, WhatsApp, Facebook, and Twitter 24 hours a day. This is very stressful. While many in your generation will adapt, many will also be left behind. Those that will be left behind will fear for the future. And this today is what is driving the anxiety that is driving people to racial, religious, ethnic, and other identity prejudices and leading to extremist behavior. This is what I want to address you on today. While I want us together to look at all these wonderful developments in science and technology and the unimaginable world it will give us, I want us to also not forget the millions and billions of the poor, the unemployed, and those who don't enjoy the same opportunities as us. I want us to look at our continent, Africa, and say, what do we mean by global peace when we talk about Africa? Should global peace not mean ending the war in the Central African Republic, in South Sudan, and in Libya, among many others. While you young people think about how you will integrate into the fourth industrial revolution, should you also not take your voices to the African Union and call our leaders to end the mindless wars and the conflicts on our continent? When we talk about technology making a difference in our lives, as it would, should we in Africa, should you young people, not be thinking how you will use your technology skills to end the root causes of conflict, which are poverty, unemployment, and inequality? And should you not be talking with your leaders today and joining them to find the solutions to these underlying causes? Too many of us older people have become complacent and accepting of this life of war and conflict. But every day it gets worse. And it's not a future you want us to live for you. Therefore, you need to be vocal about conflict, about civil strife, about refugees, about internally displaced persons, about child soldiers, about women and young girls and boys being raped as part of war. But being vocal without being organized amounts to nothing. So, become organized. I'll insist. Become organized. When you are organized, you are more effective. Social media has given you much more power to make your voices heard, to use your power to stop the abuse of the power by leaders, to stop the exploitation of consumers and workers by corporations, and to stop the abuses of women and children. Social media has given you new avenues to exercise your power that we did not have when we were organizing ourselves in our time to end colonialism and apartheid. You do not have to use violence anymore. It is destructive and shows a weakness today, not a strength like it was in our case. So use your new power and end violence in all its forms. And the use of violence to solve problems. In global peace, we have identified 4 areas that I request that all of us give consideration to. How do we build a new set of values in the world that allows us to build empathy, tolerance, and respect for each other, so that the recent terror attacks in New Zealand and Sri Lanka, for instance, do not have to happen? How do we build inclusive economies locally and globally so that as our populations grow and our resources diminish, we can have an equitable distribution of our common goods so that humanity survives and prospers together, leaving no one behind? How do we protect our environment so that our world survives, so that poor people and vulnerable people do not have to die because they cannot protect themselves and because our greed to develop at the expense of others have led us to destroy our common endowment, the environment we inhabit together? How do we share our knowledge so that patents and intellectual property do not prevent us from saving lives? How do we balance between compensating people for their hard work in research and development on one hand and saving lives on the other hand? These, my young people, are the big questions, and perhaps you are going to raise others. But these are the big questions of our time. And they are the questions to which we have to jointly find answers if humanity has to survive. We ask you today to join our global peace initiative so that we can work together to build a better world. We chose to make it intergenerational, to give equal prominence to young people, to knowledge and experience which the elder generations have, but to listen to the voices and wisdom of our past and present as a gift to young generations, to be the one who play a major role in shaping the present and the future they want. And the present and future we, elder generations, we can be proud to leave as inheritance to our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Gone are the days where we thought young people only have to listen. The days today is to say young people are taking the center stage. And we, older generations, we are here to offer, as I said, the wisdom, the experience, which we also inherited from our ancestors. And we want to give it to you to take up the challenges of your time. I thank you, Your Excellency, the President, for being that great son of Africa who is giving unquestionable pride to Africans to say, yes, Ghana was the first in the past, but is also the first today. Through the example of leadership, and courage to transform society, but also for being the face and voice of Africa, not only as a progressive Africa on our continent, but more particularly as the co-chair of the Advocates for Sustainable Development Goals to tackle the challenges of the global family, but with the wisdom, excellence, and courage of Africans. I thank you for your visionary leadership in seeing and accepting the importance of this initiative. Yes, it's the future of Africa, it's the future of the world, but also is the future where Ghana will take its rightful place of being a pioneer. History will write down global peace, intergenerational dialogues started in Ghana. They embraced, these dialogues will embrace all the cities and all the places of the world, as our partners were exactly stating here. But we will be always proud to say this is an initiative, an African initiative from the global south, which has started and prospered and covered the whole globe, but it started in Ghana. Thank you.
I don't think you understand. It started in Ghana. I don't feel the energy. It started in Ghana. Global peace, 100 cities started in Ghana. Your Excellency, thank you very much for your kind words, and this is indeed history in the making. In Ghana, we prioritize the Sustainable Development Goals. They guide our every action, they guide our every work, they guide how we pay attention to our communities in building this sustainable nation. And that is why I believe we are so proud that our president is a UN Secretary General's eminent group of SDGs advocate. He is the co-chair. I think we deserve another round of applause. Ghana deserves another round of applause for that. So with that said, and with this being an absolute important gathering, please allow me to welcome our president, His Excellency, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Please rise while we welcome the president.
The founder, chairperson, and partners of Global Peace, our traditional rulers, members of the diplomatic corps, invited guests, fellow Ghanaians, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. In December last year, at the Global Citizens Festival in Johannesburg in South Africa, commemorating the 100th anniversary of Africa's greatest figure, Nelson Madiba Mandela, I announced that Ghana was prepared to host the inaugural Global Peace Intergenerational Dialogue in Accra. I'm happy to be here today to give effect to that announcement. This is the first of 100 intergenerational dialogues to be held in 100 cities across the world, to establish a platform for the youth to interact with leaders, to reach a consensus on the best approach towards developing our respective countries, to bring the views of the youth to bear on developmental issues, and to help create a better and prosperous future for us all. I'm grateful to the African Center for the Constructive Resolution of Disputes, ACCORD, led by one of the most respected female leaders of our generation, its outstanding dynamic chairperson, Graca Machel, for the brilliance of this initiative and for choosing Accra to play host to the first of the intergenerational dialogues. It's appropriate for me, Madam, also to thank you for the generous words you said, both about my country and about myself. Thank you very much. The decision to host this inaugural dialogue in Accra, in our view, is very appropriate. Those of you who come from outside our shores and are visiting for the first time would have realized by now that you're amongst the people noted for their hospitality. Moreover, our country for many decades has been at the forefront of peace and conflict resolution efforts in West Africa, Africa, and beyond, and we will continue to play our part in helping to promote peace. Without blowing our own trumpet too loudly, it is our belief that there could not have been a better choice than Accra for the hosting of this inaugural event. Akwaba, as you know, is our word of welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy that so many young men and women who take a keen interest in the advancement of global affairs have gathered here, and rightly so, because they are the principal beneficiaries of the future we want, as expressed by the Sustainable Development Goals. It is important for the youth to be involved in the processes leading to the creation of that world. That is why, as co-chair of the United Nations Secretary General's eminent group of advocates for the Sustainable Development Goals, I have chosen youth matters as my priority area. I'm firm in my conviction of the urgent critical need to involve young people in decisions that affect them. We cannot talk about sustainable development without the active involvement of youth. Former United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon argues that when we give young people decent jobs, political weight, negotiating muscle, and real influence in our world, they will construct a brighter future. Hence, we cannot talk about shaping the future without talking about the welfare and well-being of young people. It is important that we take these ideas forward to harness the value of a youthful population, holding human rights, gender equality, development of human capital, and dignity at the center of all our investments. Only by providing opportunities that open the future to all young people do we fashion a brighter future. The angst and frustration that propelled the protests in the Arab world in the era of the so-called Arab Spring in Tunisia, Egypt, and Libya resonate deeply with many young Africans. It is a shared sense of arrested opportunities. This young, hungry generation, with a global perspective on opportunities and the aspirations to match, expect their leaders to foster peace and help deliver social and economic transformation that will have a meaningful impact on their lives. However, we continue to witness on a daily basis the scourge of conflict driving our youth to embark on harrowing journeys across the Sahara and the Mediterranean, all in the bid to chart for themselves a path to progress and prosperity. Indeed, goal number 16 of the SDGs recognizes that there can be no sustainable development without peace, just as there can be no peace without sustainable development. There cannot be a greater incentive for a person in my position than have to remember always that peace is one of the most critical ingredients that is needed in all our efforts to make Africa and indeed the rest of the world successful. African leaders have to prioritize the establishment of a peaceful atmosphere on the continent. I do not talk about the peace of the graveyard, nor do I wish for us the security of the bonded slave market. I'm talking about taking advantage of the dynamism and exuberance of our youthful populations to build the orderly and prosperous societies that promote peace. I'm talking about building the free societies that promote the spirit of competition and at the same time recognize that there will always be some that require the safety nets provided by humane and civilized societies. That is why the call by Accord to promote global peace as a catalyst for sustainable development is one which we must all support. And I'm happy that they have chosen as a symbol to this global peace initiative the Ghanaian Adinkra symbol, Mpata Abo, a symbol of appeasement, forgiveness and reconciliation, which represents the knot that binds feuding societies to a peaceful, harmonious reconciliation. Ladies and gentlemen, the 21st century is both a competitive one and the era of science and technology. We must educate and equip our youth with the requisite skills to enable them to compete in today's world. Today in Ghana, I'm delighted to be able to say that education in the public sector is now free from kindergarten to senior high school. With the adoption of my government's free senior high school policy, investment in our educational system are a key priority for my government, and we have ensured that a third of our nation's budget is dedicated to educating our young people. A new standards-based curriculum, which has mathematics, science, reading, writing, and creativity at its core, is being rolled out from kindergarten to class 6 in primary schools this year. All is set for the construction of 21 state-of-the-art technical and vocational education training TVET centers this year in the regions of our country. 10 science, technology, engineering, and mathematics STEM centers are also being built around the country to provide support for the introduction of STEM into basic education after the completion of a successful pilot phase. We are determined to ensure that Ghana's young people acquire skills that will put them at par with their peers anywhere in the world. We live in a world where the child being educated in Kumasi in Ghana must see as his or her competitor the child born at the same time in California in the United States of America. The mastery of digital technology by our youth must be the compelling challenge for them if indeed they are to survive in this competitive technological environment. They have to survive. Technology is what helps to make the world truly a global village and enables once poor people to become prosperous and scale up the value of their economic activities. Last year, I launched a youth competition dubbed Africa Innovates for the SDGs. Through this competition, we seek to unleash the potential of the youth to contribute directly to the attainment of the SDGs. A review of the over 1,300 applications received during this competition shows that the youth of our country and continent are endued with great innovative ideas which we have ignored for far too long. Soon, I will award the 5 winners of this competition with a cash prize of the CD equivalent of $10,000 each to help scale up their innovations. Towards the attainment of the SDGs. In addition to this, the winners, together with all shortlisted finalists, will be put through incubation hubs to help develop further their innovations for scalability. This generation of youth would have to accept that there would be new problems that would confront them and start turning their thoughts now to finding solutions. In a few more years, those who seek to play leadership roles on the world stage will find that it is not enough to have oil and gas finds in their country. Those without answers to emerging problems will be dealing with conflicts. We should be ready and should be preparing the youth not only to find answers to the many problems that bedevil the world today, but to be ready for the unexpected and the strange. It is my hope that these dialogues will help explore more areas of cooperation between current and future leaders to tackle the challenges that confront us and together to build a prosperous and sustainable world we all want. Accordingly, and together with Madam Graca Machel, Chairperson of the Board of Trustees for Accord, I declare the inaugural Intergeneration Dialogue duly launched. May God bless us all.
Thank you. And immediately after this quick photo session, may I also ask the police band to be ready for the national anthem as we bid His Excellency the President farewell and continue the program.
And Anita, it's also important to mention that as part of the Intergenerational Dialogue Global Peace, invited schools to submit their works, and these paintings will be found at the foyer. As you can have it, the foyer has all those photos there. Thank you very much. And now the national anthem. Thank you very much, Ghana Police Band. The President will now take leave of us. Please remain in your seats while we get ready for the next session. Shamima Muslim will lead us in the next conversation.